Maximize your yields while spreading out your workload with the earliest maturing winter cereal. Visit kws.com/ca to see how our hybrid rye varieties can work for you. High yields, high quality, high value for your farm. KWS, seeding the future since 1856.
I'm Shaun Haney, and this is RealAg on the Weekend. Let's get real and get connected with the week that was in Canadian agriculture. RealAg on the Weekend starts now. Welcome to RealAg on the Weekend here on 650 CKOM and 980 CJME. I'm your host, Shaun Haney of RealAgriculture.com. It is great to be with you here today on this show. What a week. Jam-packed. Unbelievable. We're going to try to hit some of the highlights of what I did this week, what happened this week, and where it took me. So looking forward to today's program indeed. Now, if you have any feedback on today's show, we'd love to hear from you. Send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also find realagriculture.com across all the different social media platforms. We'd also love to hear from you on the RealAg feedback line. 855-776-6147. We're going to talk about the Field of Stars event here today. Unbelievable. I'm kind of speechless, to be honest with you. It really. I had never been to that event before, but let me tell you, what an event! Amazing. Talk about that. We got Jody Lawrence from Strategic Trading Advisors out of Nashville, Tennessee, to talk about some of the things that are happening in the markets. It is not a rosy picture. We'll hear from Patrick Langille. He is with Helena Products Group. I was down in Memphis, Tennessee earlier this week, I guess on Thursday, and we did a recording of the RealAg Radio podcast from a field day, Innovation Expo that Helena was putting on, and there's some great products that Helena has here in Canada, and but just wanted to explore kind of what's going on with some of the research and things like that. So it was pretty fun. We're also going to talk today to wrap up, because earlier in the week I was at Ag in Motion on Tuesday. Sorry, it's been a long week. On Tuesday, and I was the moderator for the Saskatchewan Pulse Growers breakfast that was held. And I've got some thoughts about what we heard there. And I really would like to hear your feedback on this issue of the pulse industry in Saskatchewan moving to more of a royalty model, a VUA model, instead of the royalty-free environment that you previously were under when SPG had the agreement with the CDC. So we'll be able to we'll discuss that. And I've had some really good conversations at the event, but I want to hear more of your thoughts for sure. So once again, to provide feedback, that is shaney@realagriculture.com. Now, I haven't heard the final tally number yet, but Field of Stars, Tuesday night, wow. In just over 2 hours, the agricultural industry raised $460,000 in Saskatoon on Tuesday night. That is absolutely breathtaking to me. It is a testament to rural Saskatchewan's generosity, first of all, and commitment to community, and knowing the effectiveness and the importance of stars. And minutes matter. And when minutes matter, you need to have the resources to be able to come through. And one of the numbers that stuck out to me as I was the MC at the event on Tuesday was it takes $22 million a year to operate stars in the province of Saskatchewan. Now, part of that is funded by the provincial government, and the other half comes from great contributions from people in the community, in the province of Saskatchewan. And Tuesday night was one of those examples of that. And it was phenomenal. There was a Stars bike that it was an electric bike, painted stars red, and had stars written on the side of it. And they auctioned that off in the live auction, and I was riding it all around. It was fun. That bike alone, I think, raised like $38,000. So what a night again, and the generosity of people that are out there listening to this show right now. Stars it's a lifesaver. The VIP stories, and which is somebody that where Stars has helped them and saved their life. And there's a gentleman there that told his story, and his two daughters were standing behind him. It was if you didn't have a tear in your eye as he was telling his story, you, like I said from the stage, if that didn't move you, we need Stars to check your pulse. And I had the fortunate opportunity to sit at supper with some of the people that are in those helicopters, the paramedics, the people that are riding around in the Stars helicopter and being on location and doing that work, and amazing people. I just cannot thank them enough for, that's not an easy job. That is a stressful job. That is a job that takes commitment. And I just have nothing but great praise for some of the people that I met on Tuesday night. And Nutrien was the presenting sponsor of the event, and Corteva was a big. I think Corteva was the $80,000 matching sponsor. So there was a lot of corporations there that are in the ag industry that stepped up big time to support a great cause of Stars. So fantastic night. I can't wait to go back next year. And Alana Cook, who many of you out there know, was this is her last time as the chair of the event, did a fabulous job, and deserves a big round of applause, her and her committee, for putting on that event on Tuesday. So I applaud you, and great work, Saskatchewan. It was a great evening. Okay, coming up next on RealAg on the Weekend, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about markets. I was down in Memphis, Tennessee, and chatted with Jody Lawrence from Strategic Trading Advisors. This market is not looking very good right now. It's not being kind to the farmer, and what do you need to do about it? You're listening to RealAg on the Weekend here on 980 CGME and 650 CKOA.
Since 2010, the Wheat School on RealAgriculture.com has been helping farmers to grow great wheat. Covering everything from markets, the latest research, pest and disease control, all the way down to on-farm trials, the Wheat School has everything your crop needs. Check out our massive video library on YouTube and grow great wheat with the Wheat School, brought to you by Syngenta Canada, C&M Seeds, and Alberta Grains.
If you're involved in the agriculture industry, it's important to stay informed on all the latest issues affecting your business. At RealAgriculture.com, we offer fast, reliable news, information, and insights to help you keep on top of all of the latest in Canadian agriculture. Visit RealAgriculture.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter covering everything from news, agronomy, animal agriculture, and much more. Visit RealAgriculture.com/subscribe today.
On Thursday, when I was down in Memphis, Tennessee at the Helena Products Group Innovation Expo, I had a chance to meet Jody Lawrence. Now, he is a market analyst. His company is Strategic Trading Advisors. We chatted about the markets, and I want to play a portion of this conversation. Now, the full interview is about 22 to 25 minutes, and it's posted at realagriculture.com. It was in our email this weekend. We have an email that goes on Saturdays. If you didn't get that, you can subscribe to the email by going to realagriculture.com/subscribe. And that interview with Jody, that full interview, is at realagriculture.com. Let's listen to a portion of what Jody had to say about the markets right now. If we do have the production number, if it does come through, let's just say we got a 185 on corn. Okay, let's just say that. I don't know where you see as a downside on the December future, but that's really it's lower than where we are today.
Right.
Okay, that's really all that matters. What do growers need to do or be thinking about to protect themselves from the downside risk here? Because we've still got 23 corn out in storage in parts of the U.S. That really hurts. Those people are not feeling. There's some regret. There's definitely marketing regret there.
Yes.
We're trying to make sure we don't have as much marketing regret on the 24 crop to compound that. So what are some things you're telling some of your clients?
The hard part in this, when we were talking during the winter, is that the opening day of trade, January 2nd, corn, beans, wheat gapped lower and have not retouched the January high, have not even come close to it. That opening tick has been the high for the year on January 2nd in that overnight trade. And the hard part was that trade, that was, I think, 496.5. The January high for December corn was 496.5. All of the studies that come out of the University of Illinois and everybody's ag econ departments at all of the universities, they had the break-even cost for corn at $5.15. And the way they figure that is you're including everything. You're giving yourself opportunity cost. What could I rent my land for that I own? Or what would I be paying for it if I had to rent it? Because I think a lot of operations, everything's been so good, and especially the last up until June of 23, we had a great run from middle of COVID, especially September of 20 to June of 23, that everybody in agriculture was really, really happy with how their bottom lines looked.
Yep.
And in that, unfortunately, we got spoiled because corn price was high, bean prices were high, there were weather events, some of the political tensions that are here now were not there. And when they were making money, they kind of felt like it'll bounce back. It'll bounce back. And whether they traded too much equipment or whether they didn't, pay debt down now that interest rates are high, there were a lot of different things that have kind of pushed us in really a really critical time during agriculture. And with that break even, if you include everything at $5.15 a bushel, everybody looked at it after the last 2.5 years or 3 years that it was like I did just fine holding my corn over from September of 20 till June of 23. I'll get my opportunity. And what the market, its sole purpose is to, if we have not enough demand, drive the price low enough to stimulate more demand. If we have overproduction, drive the price low enough to where that overproduction stops, which is less planted acres. And, of course, this year, and you have to go with the USDA numbers, and I'm not going to make this, it's all I'm going to say about the USDA.
Yeah.
But when you go out and plant 91 million acres, and you're already, if you're treating all of the numbers fairly, and you're already under water for what your break even is, it becomes very difficult when you can't overproduce yourself to a point of profitability. And you look at where we are now, 405, 410 December corn, and I've talked to a lot of people, whatever their basis is, whether it's 50 under or flat, the board that, and it's like you said, there's so much 23 corn. One of the things I talked about during the meetings and all winter was, if I had called you on June 20th of 23, when the market peaked, and it hadn't, really hadn't looked back since then, and said, okay, here's what we need to do. I know your crop, the U.S. crop, and y'all were in the middle of the wildfires and the smoke in Canada, and if I would have said, okay, you're just going to have to trust me on this. We need to sell all of 23, all of 24, and potentially all of 25 because we're not going to have this price for a while. Everybody would have hung up. I never would have had the opportunity to be on your show because I would be in a food line somewhere. It was just the ability of the industry to produce such an enormous crop. And last year, I think, just caught everybody off guard, whether it was the farmer looking at his field and saying, wow, in June, this doesn't look good. And the USDA crop ratings indicated that they were in the, high 50s, very low 60s. Now they're 68 to, I think Mondays were 68% good, excellent for both corn and beans. That there was, a great kind of disparity between what we saw and looking at the rain gauge, what had happened, to then get a 177.3 corn yield in the United States, that this was one of the things that I cautioned everybody about. I said, one thing that keeps me up at night, and 2023 is a perfect example. If we have kind of jumped up to that next plateau, that next flight of stairs that production agriculture always has, like we said, all the smart people, all the new genetics, all the great practices that the farmers are implementing, if we have made that jump to now where we can have really, really inconsistent weather like last year and produce a 175 plus crop, then when we have the Goldilocks year that this year certainly is shaping up to be, if we have a 185 yield, everybody is the victim of their own success, which is really, really difficult because all that corn's out there, because from September of 20 to June of 23, there was always an opportunity. The market gave you that chance. And now the market's just not going to give us that chance.
And the market's not going to believe that there's adversity out there, even when there is, right? Because it's going to be, because last year's a great example. Like you said, and we're not crying wolf, but the market's saying, hey, I'll believe it when I see it. Yeah. That's kind of what the market's saying.
Yeah, and I think you look at the funds, they have a record short. If you look at what they are short in their position between corn, beans, and wheat, they are short what amounts to about 80% of the entire projected U.S. carryover ending stocks for 24 and 25. And that management, you and I and we could start a GoFundMe page with all of your listenership. They could all send us $1,000, and we still would not be able to have the kind of impact moving the markets and being able to get things to move in a direction like the funds have, because they have billions and billions of dollars in this. And that's what everybody. We love the funds when we're on your side.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Because they certainly, you want to ride that wave higher. But then when, everybody in ag is being the victim of our own success right now with low prices, the funds see that. Everybody sees it. The managed money comes in, and it's and certainly there are arguments, and I've been after meeting with beer in a barn conversations with a lot of farmers. It's funny how this kind of coincided with, okay, we've got to stop inflation. And then the next thing the big thing that is obviously is food. Election year, we're controlling food inflation, and then what happened with that? Not that I think, because the markets are so deep and so wide, and there's so many players in it, that's any part of it. It's just the coincidence of this coming this year, that there is a lot of heartburn in the industry that somehow the stars are misaligned to work against us right now, and it's a simple matter of everybody did their job really, really well last year.
That was a portion of my discussion with Jody Lawrence with Strategic Trading Advisors out of Nashville, Tennessee, and you can hear that entire interview by going to RealAgriculture.com. Yeah, and with the crop coming, he talked a lot about corn there. But it's really across all the commodities right now. That's one of the struggles that we have. Okay, we've got more coming up here on Real Ag on the Weekend on 980 CJME and 650 CKOM. Get all the information you need to keep your pulse crop healthy and profitable with the Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com. The Pulse School is a free YouTube video series covering agronomy, research, and more across a host of different pulse crops. It's also available as an audio podcast wherever you download or stream your favorite podcast. Check us out on YouTube or visit RealAgriculture.com, the Pulse School, brought to you by BSF Canada.
The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is your one-stop shop for everything a canola grower needs. Check out our free video series on YouTube for all the latest in canola agronomy, research, marketing, and more. Don't have time to watch? Download the podcast version of the Canola School on RealAgriculture.com or anywhere you download your podcasts. Stay on top of all things canola with the Canola School on RealAgriculture.com, brought to you by BASF and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
Nitrogen fertilizer is your farm's #1 expense. Farmers are working together through Genesis Fertilizers to solve the problem of high prices and security of supply by planning a state-of-the-art nitrogen plant. Security and earnings through ownership is the solution. Visit Genesis today at genesisfertilizers.com to learn more.
Earlier this week, I was down in Memphis, Tennessee, was able to take in the Helena Innovation Expo and ran into a few people that are very interested in Helena products for the Canadian market. The following is a paid product spotlight by Helena Agri-Enterprises. And we are joined right now by the Canadian consultant for Helena, Patrick Langille. Hey, Patrick, how's it going?
Excellent, sir. Great to be here.
It is. It's great to chat with you. We first met at Commodity Classic
Earlier this winter, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's there's a lot that's happened since then. We got a pretty good Canadian crop out there.
Excellent this year. We got a lot of moisture across the west. We have had good, consistent crops in the east. Everybody is in fairly good frame of mind as far as the crop going for this year, and we have a lot of new, interesting data coming out this year as the fourth or fifth year that Helena has been in Canada, delivering new value-added products into the marketplace.
Canada is, I would describe it as a new frontier for Helena.
Exactly. Yes.
And the group seems very excited about it, which is good. So talk a little bit about those intentions, and I know you are working with some. We talked to ICI here earlier. Shane Jansen was with us, and they're selling some of the Helena lineup. But why Canada?
So I've worked in agriculture across Canada, both in the east and the west, for the last almost 40 years. And about half of that's been out west, half of that's been down east. I'm originally from the far east in Nova Scotia, but I've worked across the country. And Helena has always been a huge company in the States, but hasn't had a big foothold in Canada. Helena is a leading company that delivers formulation technology and value-added products into the ag industry across the U.S., and a number of those work excellently up here in Canada. And it's just trying to determine exactly which products would work the best up here in Canada, finding partners like ICI that can work with us in order to do the heavy lifting, if you will, to help us deliver those in the right way for growers across their regions.
From a Western Canadian perspective, some of the other groups, like we mentioned ICI, Hawks Agro.
Hawks Agro is a customer and a supporter of ours in Saskatchewan.
Yep.
They work heavily with us on a product called Resurge, which is, not all humic products are created equal.
I'm finding this out.
Well, yeah, that's one thing you do find out, especially when you get to a product that has so much technology incorporated into it, like it does with Resurge. Resurge is pretty well the leading product, the leading humic product now for granular application that can easily be applied with any agricultural fertilizer, can easily be applied through an air drill, which makes it very easily to be uniformly applied across your fields. And the retailers have loved to blend it. They take it, they add it into your fertilizer blend very easily, and off you go.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we were talking earlier with Greg Smith about where humics make a lot of sense, and what are some of those conditions for you? Why does it create so much excitement with retailers like you mentioned, Hawks Agro? I know I was at the Crop Management Network, their big customer event. I spoke at it I think it was in March. They had a great crowd there. And, I know they are somebody that's really interested in this kind of a product lineup. So why do you get excited about research?
Long before I even took this job, I was speaking with a Agrimart retailer in Eastern Canada, and they were speaking about research, and they, we're just kicking tires one day, and they really suggested that Helena and Resurge was one of the most advanced humic products that was on the market. Now, we've known for a lot of years, probably 50 years, there's been data out there that has proven that a good humic product that is developed with a good humic ore and then formulated in a way that can be delivered in a way that can be easily blended with your fertilizer and then evenly distributed across your field can have an excellent return on investment. And just working with these guys, it just played out that Resurge delivers that to almost anybody who grows a crop and adds it into their fertilizer blend the year of application. Like, we know that fields that have a low pH, and it's hard to get nutrient uptake when you have a low pH. Aluminum ties up a lot of the phosphorus. So potato growers in eastern Canada, for example, have difficulty getting enough phosphorus into their production. And in high pH soils, you can have calcareous soils that have almost the opposite effect, where it's difficult to have nutrient uptake when the pH is too high. Yep. And we know in Western Canada and Southern Alberta, as there's more and more irrigation, pH levels are kind of creeping up. So, and then there's high saline soils, and a good humic product that can be evenly applied across the field has been proven to really improve the crops that can be grown on a field with high saline soil. So all across Canada we have these different types of soils, and it fits into almost any different application you can come across.
That was a paid-for product spotlight with Helena Agri-Enterprises. Patrick Langille, the Canadian consultant for Helena. You can find out more by going to helenaagra.com. Also encourage you to check out the Real Ag Radio podcast from Friday, where our whole show was down at that Helena Innovation Expo. Had a great discussion with the CEO of Helena, the entire market update there with Jody Lawrence, who you heard from previously here today on the program. So some really interesting stuff. So check that out at RealAgRadio.com. We'll be right back here on Real Ag on the Weekend, 650 CKOM and 980 CGME.
I'm Lindsay Smith from RealAgriculture.com. Join me Monday nights for The Agronomists, a 1-hour live and interactive show broadcast across YouTube, Facebook, and X. Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, I host expert agronomists from all over the country to give you answers to some of the toughest agronomic questions. Join us live or catch the replay Tuesday morning. That's The Agronomists with me, Lindsay Smith, Monday nights live at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Hi, I'm Bernard Tobin, host of the Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com. Throughout the year, on the Soybean School, we'll bring you timely agronomic video content from planting to harvest, from the latest agronomic research to the latest in production technology. Check out our massive video library on YouTube, RealAgriculture.com, or download the audio podcast versions wherever you get your podcasts. The Soybean School is brought to you by BASF and Syngenta Canada.
One of the other things that happened this week was MNP making the decision to get into the agronomy business. That was a big announcement on Monday. On the Real Ag Radio show on Monday, we happened to talk to the Senior Vice President of Agriculture for MNP, Marvin Slingerland. Here's what he had to say about this big announcement.
Well, as we see the importance of helping clients, like MNP has been strong helping clients financially for many years. And our knowledge stops basically on the financial side. And a lot of times it's like, how do we translate this into helping clients make the most profitable crop? And there comes a conversation where we need to talk with agronomists to help clients grow the most profitable crop. And that's where Warren's team comes in, and they can help clients implement the plan.
I should mention that Warren Bills will be heading up that agronomy business at MNP. The more I think about it throughout the week, I think it makes a lot of sense. I do. It does seem at first like a bit of a stretch, a big kind of a really different diversification for MNP, but really at the same time, like Marvin said, the financial management doesn't really stop at agronomy. And if you're running in an agronomy business, you want to be in the field. And so if you can get that back-end support, the IT, the administration, the HR, even sales support from the broader group, like MMP and the Farm Business Advisor side of the business, I kind of think it makes some sense for certain agronomists that are running independent operations. So we'll see how that all develops, and if more acquisitions come in the near term. There was not a listing from Alberta. So one of the there's 6 companies that are merging into MMP, and none of them are from Alberta. They're all Saskatchewan, Manitoba. So we'll have to see if there's a Alberta presence joining them soon. The other thing that I did this week was I took in the Saskatchewan Pulse Growers breakfast on Tuesday at Ag in Motion in Saskatoon. Very interesting. We had a really good panel discussion. So I moderated. We had Canterra Seeds represented, Lima Grain represented, and Saskatchewan Pulse Growers. We talked about the future of pulse breeding in the province. And there's big changes coming. And quite frankly, I think any change is uncomfortable. It's unnerving. And this one is really, I think, has growers pondering what the future looks like. Now, I do know that there is not everybody's on board here. There's some doubt out there. Okay, so what we talked about in the panel was the idea of formerly Saskatchewan Pulse Growers were in a partnership, an agreement with the CDC, and one of the things that provided was not only some really good varieties, but it also provided varieties free of royalties. And so pulses were sold in the province of Saskatchewan that did not have a levy on them. They did not have a royalty on them. And that agreement is ended, and Saskatchewan Pulse Growers is looking for new partners. And, they've been public about the fact that they are working on an agreement as well with CDC. I think CDC would be one of those additional partners. But they do have one in place with Lima Grain already, okay? And there's others. Brad Blackwell from SPG talked about 4 or 5 different plant breeding companies that are currently interested in entering the Saskatchewan market. But all of those are going to bring some sort of royalty structure. So Saskatchewan Pulse Growers has put some money in to get this initiative with Lima Grain started according to the agreement. And hopefully there are some varieties very soon. The difference here is there's not only going to be royalties on the front end of certified seed, which is a change, but also trailing varieties as well. Now, in other crops where there is what they call a VUA, which is a trailing variety, okay, the number that was thrown out by Brent Durkach from Canterra Seeds was $2 an acre. So you would, even if you were using and saving your own seed and planting it in subsequent years, you would still pay some sort of a royalty on that. There's been some pushback on this from some growers saying, hey, this is awesome. We need this. We need competition in the marketplace. Aphanomyces is winning this battle. Root rot is a real issue for the acre of pulses going forward. But some people have also said, wait a minute, we're double paying. I'm paying a levy to SPG, and at the same time, I'm also having to pay a royalty. What's going on here? And I feel like I'm double paying. So that's kind of I would say, if you were to broad base what the debate that's going on is, that would be one. The other thing was brought up, there were some really good questions from the crowd, I should add as well. People wondering about, okay, instead of having to partner with companies like a Lima Grain or company XYZ, ABC, whoever it is, why didn't Saskatchewan Pulse Growers set up their own seed company and just do this themselves? Whether that was $5 million, $10 million, we'd be long-term much better off. Okay, and I actually received a couple text messages and calls after the panel to this effect. So clearly this is something that people are talking about behind the scenes. Brad Blackwell from SPG said that they felt that cost was, it would be more than that, and that they still would be in a solo position then where they're not bringing competition to the market. And, one of their, I guess, key items they're looking to change would not have, just having one breeding company, again, focused on a pretty significant problem like yield and a bigger problem being Aphanomyces. So that was the answer to that. For some people, I think that sits well, and for others, I think it's still they're not happy about it. The other debate that happened, or a good question from the crowd, was what happens when a variety that is funded by SPG, Lima Grain produces out of the breeding program there in Saskatoon. But what happens if it goes to, say, like a Montana or North Dakota? Somebody else is getting to use that investment. Shouldn't these varieties be left here at home in Saskatchewan? Very good question. I'm not sure if that question was answered really directly. What I did tell somebody that had called me about this was the one thing that they were quite upset about, is I would imagine that there would still be, in those cases, a part of the agreement. My assumption was that money would still flow back, even if that variety of lentil was grown in Montana, or it's grown in Ukraine or Australia, wherever. Part of that royalty going back to the breeding company some of that money would still work its way back to SPG. And I need to confirm that, but that was my assumption that I was making. So all in all, really good breakfast, very well attended. I thought the panelists did really well. Now, what I would like, though, is your opinion. What do you think about this? Do you feel that adding competition in the market is a good thing? It seems that this is something that's happening. It's going forward. Has your view changed on it? Do you feel better about this now that we've had a winter full of meetings? Maybe you were at the breakfast, maybe you weren't. But I'm curious what your thoughts are about the direction that SPG is going here. And you could send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. Or, of course, you can call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. I will tell you, my impression was at the breakfast that opinions have softened on this. At the crop production show at the SPG annual meeting, there were some pretty upset people. And most of them are coming from a certain farm organization. I would say, though, that line of questioning or some of the accusations being made weren't at the breakfast. But that doesn't mean they're not still out there. So I'm curious. I sincerely would like your feedback on this topic. And I know that Saskatchewan Pulse Growers is going to be posting the entire panel up on their podcast. And I apologize, I don't know the name of the podcast, but go to the Saskatchewan Pulse Growers website and I'm sure you could find it. It's going to be posted shortly as an episode. You should listen to that and try to find some answers for yourself and find out if you're feeling better about it, more comfortable with this new environment. You're used to paying royalties on things like wheat. But, the funding of plant breeding has been something that's been a topic for a while in Western Canada and really in Saskatchewan in terms of what the future really does need to look like and should look like. And change is really happening. It is going to look different. I can tell you this, and I said this on the panel, that RealAg studies, the market research arm of Real Agriculture, asked growers about a number of different policies and whether or not you saw them as positive or negative impacts on your farm. The number one positive impact was investment in plant breeding. Now the question is, how should that investment happen? Where should it come from? Public versus private, both. But you see value in the investment. So that part we know for sure because our market research tells us that. It's what the framework looks like. I think that is a big part of the debate there in farm country. Well, I'll tell you what, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of RealAg on the Weekend. Once again, you can send me your feedback to shaney@realagriculture.com. You've been listening to RealAg on the Weekend. I'm Shaun Haney, your host of RealAgriculture.com, and you've been listening to 980 CGME and 650 CKOM.